Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. It's pour day. Everything else that you see to this point, you'll see in part 1. This is actually part 2 of a 3-part series. In this one, we're going to be placing the concrete, finishing it, putting a nice broom finish on it, pulling up all the rebar. In part 3, we're going to be removing all this wood, setting the brick inlays, and all these areas that you see banded off with 2x2s. This particular mix is a 3000 psi. The way it works, the way this is set up, we're going to be finishing to the top of the 2x2 on the inside, but on the outside we're going to be finishing to the bottom, so it's a step down. The step down is to allow for that brick split to drop in there really nicely on top of some thin set. And now it's crucial you keep watching that outside area, that recessed area, that it doesn't try to mushroom up on you. Whenever you do a monolithic, the concrete wants to go from the high side to the low side. It's kind of like self-leveling. Like if you put water down in a bucket or anywhere, it levels by itself. Concrete, especially when you're at this slump, we're looking at about a 5-inch. It's going to try to push up in those low areas, so you got to try to keep it down. You may have to go through it later, cut it down to make sure you have the space to get those splits in. Otherwise, you could be out there chipping with a chipping hammer to get your brick in. But the way it's going right now, it's looking real good. Got the wood bowl float, 3 foot wide. Nice straight screed board. The rebar runs continuous underneath these inlay areas. So that means when the brick goes in these lowlands, when you drive over it, everything moves as one. So you don't get brick separation. You don't get brick dropping or concrete coming up, you know, in the years to come. Or you don't get grout failure because it's all on the same base, a monolithic pour. Notice how that bowl float nut's a little loose. You really can't work when the concrete's stiff like it is here. As you can see, you can't put the weight behind it. A lot of times you need to put a little weight on that pole and push down on that float to make things happen. And when you got a loose nut on your bowl float, it just doesn't happen. And you can see the beauty of the bowl float. You notice how this is a 3 foot wide, but you see all the low areas? You can visually see them as you're bowl floating. And now that you can see them, you can sprinkle some concrete back in them. So that's the purpose of bowl floating. It also lets you know if you got a good rod guy. A couple things it does. Oh, see, here's those recessed areas I was talking about. Apparently the concrete did come up. But what you can do, go ahead and let it get hard in this situation, because as you walk through it and you're standing on those 2x2s, they could move. They may not be staked out well. You may not have the 8 duplex. You may be running 6s. There's a lot of things you have to take into consideration when you start walking on 2x2s suspended in the air. You could potentially just let it set. As it gets harder, you walk on the concrete through the bands because it's going to get covered with brick anyway. Then you just scrape it out, you know, instead of trying to do the detail work early. Let it get hard and use a little brute force and get it done. We got to switch over to the magnesium bowl float at this point. Nice switch. I like that magnesium. Seals it up, buys you some time to get down to business. In hot weather especially, I mean, when you're, you know, when the temperature is above 100, you're going to want to start with magnesium every time. You'll never see a woody like in the hot weather climate. You want to seal it as quickly as possible, get it in good shape, because everything happens twice as fast.
Try to flow with them as smoothly as possible. Oh, I don't know, dude. That's a good split. Dude, imagine the drone right now. Top. Come from a block away and then appear here. One, grab 7 margin cross.
Looks like a really nice concrete quality. And that's very fortunate because this is going off and there's a lot of edges to cover. And because we have that 1/2 inch radius around all the brick ribbon inlays, what you're going to have to do in this situation, when you set the brick and you grout on all 4 sides of every brick, you're going to have to run a radius on the actual grout, because if you run it over the top of that radius of the concrete, it starts at a 3/4 deep grout joint and then it goes to 0, which means the grout's going to break off. So you have to edge the grout. That's what we'll be doing here as well. All the stakes came out day of the pour. It makes it a lot more work, a lot tougher, but it can be done. You could potentially just break those out the next day, clean and crisp, grout over them, lay your brick. But now you're getting a second use out of those stakes, so that's always nice, especially with the cost of wood right now. I like to hit them with a lot of oil, preserve them indefinitely. The nice thing about it is it looked like it's shaded out now, the entire driveway. The sun must have moved over the rooftop. That definitely bought some time here. Basically on the troweling technique, they're using just some typical steel trowels with 1/2 inch edgers going down all that. Now you've got the world famous 50% horsehair, 50% nylon broom going down on it, giving you that perfect non-slip finish. They make some nylon brooms as well that work nearly as well. It's really a matter of preference.
It looks so perfect.
You can see the bracket on that broom because of the screw and adapter has stripped the wood. So we've got some duct tape there to try to make up the difference. It's really common with those. Oh, I see a nylon broom going out at this point. Green nylon. Looks like it did a nice job. You never know the difference between the horsehair or the nylon at this point. He's got an adapter rigged up on this nylon brush so he doesn't have to worry about it stripping out on him. Now do a little cleanup along the perimeter where the excess concrete overflowed on the apron approach there. Sponge and bucket of water. And there's your base, monolithic pour for a nice brick inlay that should never fail any earlier or later than the concrete driveway itself because it's all one piece. And make sure you stay tuned and catch part 3 because that's going to be the brick going in on this, and it really makes it look nice. Anyway, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. When you do subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified when the next one gets uploaded, and then you won't miss part 3 of this 3-part series. And this happens to be part 2. Have a good day. Bye.